Good evening. I'm Epstein with your metal market wrap-up. And this wrap-up is for Wednesday. And we are at the 22nd of March, 2023, 6:15 p.m. So let's talk about what today's events were. Fed Chair Powell changed some key words. There could be some further increase hikes. He didn't take off how frequent or any of that. We saw the dot plot. The average is around 5.13 for the terminal rate. Not much different than we saw before. One member went all the way up near 6%, another way down into the low fours. We'll see what happens with that. But the market didn't break on that news. The market actually was up, if you were looking at the stock market, through all that. It's later in the day that something happened. You know, the markets have been hoping or anticipating that the Fed was going to come to the rescue of all these banks that have to be done. I even talked about it in my newsletter that it had been floated the idea of increasing the FDIC insurance to another number. I happen to think it makes sense. The reason is $250,000 today, I don't think it's a big enough number for so many of the baby boomers that have all this money that they've accumulated. They're now in their 60s, 70s, and that's just not enough. Okay, but that's not what Miss Yellen said. She made it very clear because what happened is Mr. Powell said that depositors are all covered. Basically, that's what he said. Came back, and I kept wondering, what does that mean? And others in the press conference corps asked too. What it came down to is Ms. Yellen cleared it up when she was speaking today, and she said, no, it is not even under discussion that all depositors are going to be covered. Each time they go into a bank that's failing, they look at it. They have rules that they can follow. There are laws that were enacted in 2008, and they can do those. But as for covering all bank depositors everywhere, mid-tier, small tier, not going to happen. The market knows though. Because what it puts right back on the market is all these banks that have troubles right now. They've got bigger problems because they either fail to get the Fed assistance, but they're not going to get it in other ways. So they'll go out and try to raise capital, but we keep hearing 2 or 3 more banks as to what the issues are. Haven't heard any results on the auctions. So how do you play this? What does it mean? Well, while you dropped hard, you know what's going to happen. I mean, it's evident. The naysayers are going to come out again, as they've done each time, and they're going to say, if you really look at what's going on, while the Fed said that the tightening of banks is the equivalent of another interest rate hike, because that's what's widely expected, they'll say, you know, the Fed isn't going to be that aggressive. That may or may not happen with the banks. And at a point down here, they'll start their buying campaign again. That's what I think is going to happen. Now, in the metal markets, how I look at it is very different than that. I look at the gold market as saying, all right, if the Fed's not that aggressive, that means I don't have the headwind of higher interest rates that just keep galloping in front of it. And that puts the gold up to a degree there. Silver market, the same thing. Copper had a nice run. It can afford to consolidate here. On the energy market, they're falling for other reasons because if you look at the dollar down, that's actually friendly on that market. And I'm just assuming they're waffling at this point. And notice the bonds and the notes. If you were really nervous that, the interest rates are just going to go galloping, they wouldn't be up tonight. When they go up, it means yields are falling. So I think I'm giving you just where this is at. It leaves open the door of a lot of questions. The Fed is counting on the banking system to tighten up, help restrain the economy. He made it very clear that labor is a big problem. And we'll get into this as we talk on some of the other updates tonight. When you look at the gold market, 1985 had been the high close. We're at 1970.60, not quite through that at this point in time. When we take a look at the June gold, we have climbed all the way up here. The market's got a pattern of higher lows, still higher highs. Moving averages are all lined up bullish. The resistance is the upper Bollinger Band. You've backed away from it. And now the question is, do you get an embedded reading? And you don't. You have an overbought market. Overbought markets, in my opinion, don't attract new capital. You either correct them by breaking or they embed. So I think right here there's no bargain. That's just my opinion on it. In the gold-silver ratio, take a look how silver is gaining against gold. So once you cleared this number, and if you go back just a few days on the videos, if you still have them on YouTube, you'll see I said if you can get under that, you probably get more of a break. And that's just what's happening because you've got a pattern of lower highs, lower lows now. When we look at silver, the market is sitting here against the upper Bollinger Band, fighting a battle between the 100-day average and that number. It is the first test of the 100-day average in a long time. Am I keen on ever buying the first time over it? I'm not. Are we embedded? We are not. While the numbers tonight, both numbers are over the 80 level. Let's go back a few days. They're not over that. Well, Wednesday they closed over it, but not Tuesday. See what I'm getting at? So you have one day where you're over it, you're overbought, you're in an area that I think some resistance can show up. In the copper market, I like what copper's doing. I think these lows were overdone. I think the market's going to try to fight a battle at the 18-day average of closes. If, I'm right on this, if we can see China's economy pick up, another if we can get in the U.S. not a series of a lot more hikes, well, then the market is saying in copper, oh, things are going to slow down, and I'm going to repeat. Maybe. I'm going to talk a little bit tonight when I get into my financial updates as to where I see the next shoe dropping on the banking system, so you might want to turn into that as well. In the platinum market, patterns higher lows, higher highs, resistance. Remember, I keep telling you, the first challenge of 100 days is often that resistance. You always look for an average you haven't hit in a while, and the market will tell you, I'm going to be support or resistance. Example, the 200-day. You played with it quite a bit here. I think you'd agree with me. Then you got over it, and now you're pushing to the 100. But that's a bullish chart, not a bearish chart. It's also not overbought. In the palladium, it finally said, don't leave me behind. And with this rally, at least you've ended that period of just declining, but it wasn't a big decline period. I think it's just a chop period still. I don't think this market has set its way. And in the dollar, I now think the dollar has converted itself bearish, but we need patterns to trade off of. You either embed, which you're not trying to do yet, or you rally back up, fight at some of these averages. But what's going to drive it there? That's my problem. I think that the dollar, with what the Fed said, is they're looking to weaken the economy materially. I don't want to buy the dollar off of that. Number two, I don't think that we're going to have the headwind advantage. Number three, tomorrow we get the Bank of England, we get the Swiss National Bank. So why do I want to step in front of all that? I don't. So what I try to do is just step back, sound mind, let all these other things settle in. We get the yin-yang impact tonight. What do I mean by that? Remember what time our announcement comes out. It came out at 1 o'clock, the press conference with Mr. Powell at 1:30. Ms. Yellen didn't even do anything until about 2:30 Chicago time. And by the time this all got known, Asia was asleep. Europeans they're out of their office. So you're going to see the reaction tonight as it goes around the world and comes back. I'll cover this in great detail in the morning. So if you want to tune in and get with me in the morning, I start recording at 5:15, 5:30. My videos come out shortly after 6 a.m. Central Time. I'll cover the world event. How do you get onto my list? All you need to do is move your cursor up here, go into the free offer area. In the free offer, sign up for offers to my full research, and away you go. If you haven't tried it before, please do so. I'm Epstein. You have a good evening. I will talk to you all tomorrow.